Welcome back and thanks for being with us here on Morning Live. Now, the re-elected EFF leader, Julius Malema, says that the party has resolved to take its leadership closer to the people they represent. Now, he was speaking at the close of the party's National People's Assembly at Nasrec in Johannesburg. Malema says that the party's regional structures will be done away with in favour of establishing sub-regional structures. Now, the hope is that the leaders of the new structures will be more accessible to the communities in which they live. Meanwhile, the MK party leader and former President Jacob Zuma says that he remains hopeful of a win in the electoral court against the IEC. And this, of course, in relation to allegations of voter fraud in the May 29th general elections. But let's bring in now political analyst, Professor Ntsikelelo Breakfast from the Nelson Mandela University for his views. Prof, good morning and thanks so much for speaking to us here on Morning Live.
Thank you very much for having me, Sakina.
And perhaps let's start with the EFF. Julius Malema emerging victorious at the Economic Freedom Fighters National People's Assembly over this past weekend. There were over 2,000 delegates that elected him. And of course, the EFF is now up and ready to run the next race. But was there anything specific that stood out for you from that assembly?
Well, Sakina, I think what stood out for me was the speech of Julius Malema, the speech that he made on the first day. I think that was the best speech that he has ever made. It's one of the best speeches that I've ever listened to. And that speech, I'm not trying to overplay it. It's going to be a seminal, speech. Because what he did there was to look back in terms of what the party stands for. That was very central, given the fact that the party has been dealt with a blow in a big way by this exodus. And then he looked ahead. Then also he clarified the discourse about what the party stands for, by stressing the issue of the ideological frameworks of the party, Marxism and Leninism, the stuff of Frantz Fanon and, Africa for Africans and so on. But in as much as that is one of his strong points. Look, the guy is smart. He is smart. And also I would argue and say he's intellectually grounded. But the problem with Malema, and I'm not scared to say this, the problem with Malema, he cannot stand divergent opinions. Yesterday, you saw what happened. You must have seen what happened. He took a swipe at journalists and analysts. Malema should realize that he's not just a leader of the EFF. He is also a father of the fatherless, People look up to him, and it's that kind of posture that makes people want to gravitate away from the party. So, unfortunately, because of that weakness, that affects the electoral performance of his party. I'm not taken aback by the turn of events in terms of the election of the leaders that emerged. That was planned. Everything went according to plan for him. I'm just sensing a danger that, the lady that wanted to stand for the deputy presidency, what is going to happen now to her? Because the party doesn't want to accommodate people who don't speak the same language with the dominant faction. The key question that the party has to grapple with is how is it going to reposition itself in the political landscape in the light of the upcoming local government elections. And there are two possibilities. There's no in between. It's either they go up or they go down.
What was interesting, I think, in the lead up to the National Assembly was, of course, the diagnosis that the EFF had done about its own decline in electoral support. In speaking to Marshall Dlamini last week, and he made this point where he spoke about how perhaps the EFF, and not, he didn't say it in so many words, but essentially what I read into his response was the EFF had failed to grow its own support organically in terms of its traditional support base. And the voters who had voted for the EFF in the previous general election may have been voters who were disgruntled with the ANC previously. And they, with the emergence of the MK party, then simply took that support to the MK. And if you look at the numbers, the percentage point drop in support for the EFF in the May 29 general election, it seems to bear that out. So it raises the question of how does the EFF then grow its own support base?
Sakina, I don't agree with that argument of the EFF. You don't grow organically. There's no such. You grow in particular as a vanguard, which is a party that leads the working class. You grow because you can maneuver in the landscape. You can maneuver to outmaneuver those that you are in competition with. For instance, there is a debate that has broken out of late about the ownership of Spaza Shop. That is a terrain of the struggle of the working class. Where is the EFF perpetually silent? Do you know why? Because the EFF has this, discourse of Africa for Africans. There's nothing wrong about that, Sakina. There's nothing wrong about that. But the manner in which the EFF pitches its message to its audience, they speak over the heads of people. When I walk up and down in, go to townships, I come across people, they say, but we don't understand the argument of this party. So I'm saying that the party needs to pitch a message that is understood by the rank and file on the ground. The second issue is how EFF members carry themselves. Because some of the old people, they're not comfortable with the way EFF members speak in public and so if they, Sakina, respecting people doesn't take away anything from you. So they need to work on that. If they can work on those things, I can bet my bottom dollar, come the upcoming local government elections, they will go up.
So looking at what transpired over this past weekend, so delegates from KwaZulu-Natal and the Western Cape also being barred from voting after failing to secure over 10% of support during the May 2024 national and provincial elections in their specific areas. Now, looking at that, it of course is punitive measures imposed by the EFF against those who did not perform. What's your take on that? And, do you think that this is a progressive way of dealing with non-performers, or should there have been a different way that they could have looked at dealing with that?
Well, I've got mixed feelings on that score. I'll tell you why. Because, socialist parties throughout history, they've tended to be undemocratic. They've tended to be elitist, where decisions are made on top and brought down to the rank and file. Sometimes, you have to discipline members if they are out of line, if they don't perform. But sometimes I get the sense that some people are removed as part of a purge. The EFF, unfortunately, it was dealt with a blow in a big way, in particular in KZN, because of the ushering in of MK. I don't think that they should be too hard on each other because of that. Also, they did not do well in Gauteng. But Malema has a history of purging people who don't agree with him. So that's my view. I think there is a need to consolidate internal democracy within the party. People must be given a space to speak their minds and not be elbowed when they disagree with the dominant faction.
Another big question on people's lips was, of course, regarding Mbuyiseni Ndlozi and particularly his future within the EFF. Is he being iced out?
Yes, Sakina, he's been elbowed because he's not trusted by... Look, I'm not taken aback by what has happened. Malema took a swipe at him. It was very much personal. But I was not surprised by that because after Floyd walked out of the party, Malema said, if you want to know where the person stands, you must look at the spouse. And then when Advocate Mbofu jumped ship, Malema said there are two more on their way out. The other one sings well. So I saw it coming that the guy is going to be kicked out. Now, I think what broke the camel's back was the statement that he made that no one is above the party, you know, the guy has got ego. But in the same breath, I can advance the same argument against him that, listen here, even yourself, the party revolves around you.
So, looking at how things have played out, is there still a place for Mbuyiseni Ndlozi in the EFF? Many people saying that he should just leave the party, but he hasn't. And, you know, it's been quite a while. So how do you see this playing out? Is there space for him to come back into the fold?
Sakina, I don't blame him for not going there. Even myself, I would never have gone there. Why must you go to a place where people don't show you, you know, respect? So he did the right thing by not going there. But I think he should just let go, you know, just walk out of the party. I mean, the guy is very gifted. Intellectually. Yeah, I mean, he's got nothing to lose. But I don't know why is he perpetually silent, because the odds are against him. There were songs which were sung on stage indirectly about him. So he is not wanted in the party. So, I mean, why then do you stick around?
So let's just quickly segue to MK. You know, it disrupted the political landscape in quite a big way after the last general election. But the question on everybody's lips is whether the MK can sustain that momentum. What's your take on that?
Well, the recent general elections had winners and losers. The party did very well as a new kid on the block. It stood at 17% on a large scale, nationwide, got 45% in KZN, should have been in government, and I blame them for not being in government because while they were busy instituting legal action about the democratic outcomes, others were busy forming a government. But they can bounce back with a bang in a KZN. Now, you know, it's one thing to do well, Sakina, in elections. It's another thing to make sure that you build upon that, you know. So I get the sense that, I mean, in as much as I'm critical of Malema, I'm also critical of MK. I've got nothing against them. I'm going to speak my mind. I get the sense that the party revolves around Msholozi. Yes, Msholozi is smart, you know, he can be strategic, he knows how to outmaneuver others. But the party should think about a situation whereby Msholozi is no longer around because we know we are all human beings. What is going to happen to the party? So I think that is what is important. So the party stands a good chance of doing well in the upcoming local government elections. But Sakina, I must say that I was not impressed by the speech of Msholozi yesterday. It was a very, I'm not trying to be funny, very superficial speech. You know, it started with the same stuff of the political settlement within the between the British and the African-speaking people, something that he always starts with. So that was not a very powerful speech, but at the same time, the party does have strong points, and the party has caused a major shake-up in the body politic, in particular to the left of the political spectrum.
All right, we have to leave it there. Unfortunately, we're out of time. But thank you so much for sharing your views with us this morning. And that, of course, Professor Ntsikelelo Breakfast, political analyst at the Nelson Mandela University, giving us his analysis on the EFF's National People's Assembly and, of course, a quick look at the MK Party's first anniversary. Sharing his views with us there. Yours also welcome.